Jesper, would you please tell us about yourself and your background?
I think I will begin with my PhD then. It's called media sociography, and media sociography is to describe the social in regard to the media that it is based on. So it's a way of thinking where you cannot have anything social if you have no communication media. And theoretically seen, it is a synthesis of Luhmann's sociological systems theory and the medium theory going back to Harold Innes, Marshall McLuhan, Walter Ong, Elizabeth Eisenstein, Joshua Meyerowitz, Neil Postman, you name it. But then I was working with the situation with oral language, writing, the printing press, analog, electronic media, and then of course digital media. And I finished the dissertation in 2006, and then shortly after I began to have education as an object for my research. So that means that for at least the last 15 years I have been working on how the digital medium revolution affects the school system. And I have ran 3 bigger research projects: the social media education project, the BIT project, and the DUFA project. So I have been investigating this area of education in relation to digital media for some years.
How do you think the coronavirus pandemic has transformed the education sector?
Wow, like a shock therapy, because all face-to-face teaching was cancelled in most countries, and many places it's still up, but in the basic school in Denmark at least, and I guess also in Germany, we have started with the small children first, and now also the bigger children are there. But secondary schools, it's only in the last class that they are physically there. But so for a month and 2 weeks at least, all teaching was only performed online, and it has really been a shock therapy, because many teachers have not really wanted to use digital media in their education, so their knowledge about using, for example, Zoom and other media was not very good. So it has been a tough time for the teachers, and I will also say that it was never meant for us who are researchers in the field that teaching should only be online. That was never the idea. So this have been an emergency situation, but I guess it have provided some teachers with some training in using digital media. So maybe we will now experience that teachers will become a little bit better to use digital media when they are teaching.
Would you please tell us more about the findings of your research about digital education?
Yeah, going back to the social media education project, we were contacted by an upper secondary school, gymnasium school in Denmark, and the situation there was like we saw it generally all over the field, that the students was very distracted by others and their own use of digital media, and the teacher didn't know what to do, and the students did not know what to do, and so that was the situation. And in our analysis, the problem is that when we have a new communication medium, then our norm system, our standards of how to do socially, haven't been developed to the new communication situation. So therefore, we had this lack of norms, and reaction from the schools was a prohibition. They forbid the use of media. That was one reaction, and the other reaction was to ignore what was happening. And none of these two strategies is good when it's come to develop new norms, new didactics also that is all right with the new situation. So therefore, in the social media education project, we prohibited the teachers to prohibit the use of any media at all, but also to ignore any media use. Instead, they should try to initiate reflexivity about the use of the media. And then also the teachers had to use social media within their teaching. And we chose that they should use Twitter and Wiki and shared documents. But especially the Twitter communication was very important, and we scraped 30,000 tweets from the class during their 3 years of upper secondary school. So they developed this parallel interaction system, which was a written interaction system, which was parallel to the oral interaction system. And that showed to have many really, really good teaching effects. For example, if they were watching a movie in the class, then every student would have Twitter on their screen, and then they would look at the movie and listen to it, and then they would discuss the movie, asking each other questions about the plot and the persons and what was happening, and the teacher would help them also by giving questions but also answers. So they became this analytical community while watching the movie. And afterwards, all the students have these tweets as notes when they had to write about the movie. And if we compare that to other classes where they were looking at movies, then many of the students would play computer games or buying shoes or doing homework to other classes, or they were sleeping, and nobody were actually paying attention to the movie. But in this teaching design with Twitter, all the students was active under the movie, making shared notes by their discussions, and so that, I think that is really a good example of telling how strongly the digital media can support teaching, not instead of all communication and physical being together, but as a contribution where you can use the new possibilities of the digital media within the teaching. But it takes time to develop these new didactics, and therefore it is very important not to prohibit or ignore the use of, for example, and especially social media, but to integrate them in the teaching.
As a professor, which method do you prefer, online or traditional education, or a combination of both?
Yes, you can guess that I'm for the combination. And of course, in the combination, we have situations where we have only oral communication, sometimes in the classroom, and sometimes when the students, that was another thing that we developed it in the social media education project, was that the teachers provided help to the homework of the students 1 hour, 5 days a week at night, when the students actually was trying to do their homework. And then when they had problems, they could use Twitter to ask their teacher about what to do. And so sometimes only online, sometimes but very seldom. It would be stupid only to use oral communication when you can, for example, look things up all the times on Wikipedia, and or using Twitter to ask a professor outside the classroom, for example. So I cannot see a situation where we should not use digital media, but I can see that, for example, when the situation of homework, we can use only online communication, and also sometimes there are also this, if they are on a trip to Lisbon, for example, the class, then they could split up in groups and keep contact and document using Twitter and other media while they are on the run, and then much of the contact would also be just online. But
what are the main benefits of online and digital education compared to traditional methods?
We have this strange problem in these years that to walk into a typical classroom, it's like going 20 years back in time, where you do not use the new media for creating knowledge, for sharing knowledge, for learning. So all these things about, for example, making shared notes, so always all the students have all the best notes to work with. I can say a lot more about it, but I guess that would be the answer.
What are some of the disadvantages of online and digital education?
In this Corona time, it is very, very clear that just to have online education is not very good. And I think that the biggest problem is that you will have no real commitment from the view of the learner to have the body of the teacher who are wanting you to learn something, who are trusting you, and you can see it, or will be very sad if it's not happening, and that will give the students some commitment to try to learn, and also many of the physical processes of the teacher can see and feel in the classroom if the students understand what she's talking about. And so all of that things where we need our body, first of all, to commitment, but then also in the teaching situation for having this feedback system, control of understanding back and forth. And we have seen in Denmark that many of the children from the lowest classes and of the students who are the ones who are not very good at doing the school things, they really have problems now, because they are them who mostly need this teacher, maybe from another social class or from another milieu, another culture, where you can learn this culture, and by being with the teacher, being part of this culture, also together with children from homes where they read books, that is really huge problem. So I guess it's very clear to everybody now that a clear, clean online model of teaching will not do.
You mentioned some challenges facing the development of online education. What are some other challenges in this area?
First of all, then the other way of answering is that the teachers, most of the teachers, have not the training in using digital media, and that is not only technically. Technically, their problems are huge, but also when we are talking about didactics, how is it a smart way to use online teaching? How can you, for example, use Twitter using hashtags to distinguish the communication to only be about this topic, using a hashtag, using tags, saying, what do you think about this? And so all these technical things must walk hand in hand with didactics that is developed within the digital based teaching. So many children have had a very bad teaching, not only because it has been only online, but also because their teachers need education in using digital media, both technically and educationally.
Jesper, you already mentioned some solutions to address these challenges. In your opinion, what else can universities and professors do to improve the quality of online classes?
As I would say that the design from the social media education, where the teacher must not prohibit the use of media and must not ignore it, and have to initiate reflections, discussions in the class about how is a good use of the media, and then also to use social media to their teaching, so they teach through the digital media, not only digital media, but like in the classroom with Twitter as a parallel interaction system to the oral interaction system. So therefore, the teachers must make experiments with their students every day in the classroom, finding good ways to use digital media. Be prepared to take discussions about views of the students, their ideas. One feels distracted, but others do not. Then can we move them who are distracted up in front of the teacher, where they not have to look at the screens from the others, and all that kinds of micromanagement things must be developed. And now in this early time of the digital media revolution, we need every teachers in all the classes to do experiments every day.
Do you have any tips to share with students who are taking online classes, especially when it comes to motivation and concentration?
Yeah, they could take some initiative themselves and, for example, use Zoom and Skype and other media to have reading groups, discussion groups, groups that are discussing parallel when their teacher is giving a lecture online, for example. Then they should be on Twitter, for example, or using, like now we have this possibility of using written communication while the oral is going on. So then if the students really use the written interaction parallel with the online lecture, then they can find good question to stop the teacher and say, now we are a group of students who cannot understand this or think that this is wrong, or what they want to comment. So that is what the students must do. They must do everything that they can to use the digital media to be actors within the teaching process.
How do you see the future of online education? Do you think it will become a permanent trend?
Yeah, just like we have printed books and like that, it will be absolutely normal. And if we are having all these experiments, and then we will develop very, very good and ways of teaching that is also fitted to the new medium environment.
How do you see the prospects for investment in online education tools?
To answer that question, I will talk about another problem, which is in the Anglo-American world, where we see this huger and huger use of big data and profiling of students, and the way of treating students like they are trivial machines, that AI, the artificial intelligence, can find out how should we frame questions to you, and maybe that can help teachers. But they are also using this about reading face expressions, if you are having the right attitude to the school system and to the teacher, and it is really, really scaring. And Google and other of the big actors from the US and Silicon Valley based companies are also using this corona situation to get the market for teaching, and they think that they can do it just online, and then all of us can interact with an artificial intelligence. About this big data thing, we are about to have an article out about it, and when it's out, I will send you a link so you can look at it. It's very, very interesting about this. We have 3 models. This Anglo-American one with big data and the big companies running the show, and then a state model with like China, where the state and their artificial intelligence are running the teaching, and then this European model about Bildung. So I think that you will find that interesting when it's out. And in Europe, we have this tradition of Bildung. Do you know that concept? Bildung? No. It's a German concept. In Danish, we call it dannelse. So in the northern of Europe, at least, but I guess also down with you, Bildung is the tradition. It started with the printing press, where now people got more knowledge, and then they would also like to taking part in taking decisions, the waking of democracy. And then the philosophers, Spinoza, for example, but later Kant, the Enlightenment philosophers had this idea that if we were providing the citizens with Bildung, then learning them not only the hard stuff about reading and writing and physics and the other hard topics, but also how to behave in relation to other people, how to talk in a good way, and especially when it comes to writing. If we will have this free speech, they were having this discussion about how to behave yourself. So that is Bildung, both to have knowledge, but also to be very good on socially. Then we will think in Europe that the single citizen, the single person, can decide for himself or herself what would be the best in a situation. We cannot decide what is the best for them, but we can help them do their education to get Bildung, so they can take good decisions for themselves. And in this other way of seeing things from the Anglo-American way with big data and like that, then we will have a machine to decide, and we will not learn people to decide for themselves. So I would say that within the Bildung tradition, we would really, really like the smart media, but we would not like to be profiled and to just have an artificial intelligence as our teacher. But maybe they can help us doing good teaching, but we will not let them play the main role of teaching. There we would like a teacher, a human being there with the students.